This episode is brought to you by CPA.com, the business and technology subsidiary of the AICPA. Join them this December in Washington, D.C. for the Digital CPA Conference and learn how firms are embracing transformative technologies, business strategies, and services to position for ongoing success. Register by July 31st with promo code PODCAST25, that's PODCAST25, to save $500. Learn more at dcpa25.com. Welcome to On the Air with Accounting Today. I'm Editor-in-Chief Dan Hood. If you're an accountant or a tax professional, you've probably at some point looked at a client's taxes or their finances and thought, wow, their financial advisor is terrible. Which begs the question, why do you become their advisor yourself or work more closely with their advisor? Here to talk about all of that and why accountants should think about this question very seriously and rethink their role is Rory Henry. He's a CFP and director at Arrowroot Family Office. He's also the co-founder of AFO Wealth Management Forward and the author of the recent Holistic Guide to Wealth Management. Rory, thanks for joining us.
Dan, thank you so much for having me on the show. I've listened to a number of these podcasts, and I've had the privilege of going to conferences and singing karaoke with you. So I'm excited to have this conversation, and I won't be singing this time, Dan.
Yeah, we haven't recorded any of the karaoke, which I think is appropriate, but I'm glad to have you in this non-musical capability capacity.
We'll stay on the audience's ears.
Exactly. But I think it's worth listening. This is going to be worth listening to much more so than the karaoke because it's a fascinating topic, and it's one that accountants have been talking about for a long time, or people around accountants have been talking about for a long time. But it's still there's still some room for movement on it. I want to start though we're going to talk about that issue, how accountants can fit into this, but I want to start by talking about the holistic financial advisor that you're talking about in your new book. What is that? How would you describe the holistic financial advisor?
Gosh, Dan, that's a good question. As a holistic financial advisor, I think we're looking beyond the investment portfolios, beyond the tax strategies. Many times these professions have worked in silos and weren't really integrated. And the holistic advisor, this advisor I think of today, is really taking this 360-degree view of the client's entire financial life cycle, their personal, their business, integrating the tax planning, the business advisory, the retirement planning, the estate, the insurance, and the investments. And it's really connecting these dots, Dan, between their financial decisions and in the end, their life goals. So that holistic advisor is literally looking at their tax savings, looking at their business optimization, and then giving them a financial roadmap to have an understanding of where they want to go in their life with their business. I always say we got to ask our clients the questions. What do they want in their business? Do they want IPO? Do they want a nice lifestyle business with more times with friends and family? And so it's really doing that foundational work of a holistic financial plan that becomes the pathway to make their business and personal financial decisions.
It's a holistic role. That is when you describe all that, but it's precisely the kind of stuff that as a CPA or an accountant, if you're just looking at somebody's taxes, right, you're seeing a lot of those things, those issues will come up just in their taxes or if you're working on their finances in any other capacity. And you can see how, for a lot of your clients, they're not getting that holistic approach, or no one's taking that holistic approach for them. Have you seen that a lot?
Yeah, so the tax return is great insight into a client's finances, and it becomes a springboard. I see most professionals out there, Dan, on the tax side, tax planning's a great a service offering that allows them to do more future-facing advice. Obviously, we've heard it a number of times over the years that accountants are very backwards-facing, but it's the ability to provide those planning opportunities to have that tax efficiency, but then pairing that, Dan, with the long-term outlook. What are the retirement needs? Making sure that a client's risk profile for their investments is being done properly. And then connecting estate planning. I always say, Dan, estate planning is a family office level of care. It's connecting generations, and it covers the full balance sheet for folks out there. I call it a virtual family office. Stuff that we do here at Arrowroot is really covering the tax, the accounting, the business advisory, the financial planning, the investment, the insurance, the exit, the estate planning, ensuring that a client's business and personal finances are working in concert with each other to ensure that they're making the correct decisions.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the family office because I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Knowing, right, you're from Arrowroot Family Office, I know that's the context within which you operate. But is this always a family office level services have to be, within that context? I mean, I think there's, can accountants bring this to other clients?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. I want to give definitions here to what a family office is. So historically, I think when people think of family offices, they think of John D. Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, 100 million, $250 million in assets. And so single family offices historically advise the business and personal financial affairs of these really wealthy families. There's now multifamily offices that put together a number of families, and they save on infrastructure costs of all these professional service folks working for them. This concept of what we call a virtual family office can now be had by wealth management firms as well as accounting firms, and they're connecting professional service providers via technology and collaborating to make sure that clients are receiving sound tax efficient advice. Their business are being advised properly, but also doing the personal financial planning and the wealth management, the estate planning with professional service providers that are working to make sure that client is making the correct decision. Now, there's different forms that this can take, and we can touch on the licensing requirements. But in essence, it's really taking the best of the CPA and business advisor world with the financial planner and the wealth manager, and making sure that clients getting great advice.
No, and obviously then there's insurance, there's legal issues.
Yeah.
If you're looking at estate planning, do you need all these experts in-house in the family office, or is it partnering with other service providers, but under whoever's the holistic advisor is the one who sort of, I've heard it described as maybe the quarterback of this
Yeah.
team of advisors?
Yeah, the quarterback. I say the accounting professional, Dan, because they are the financial first responder. I think our friend Jody Pater continually calls them the financial first responder. They're the one that has an outsized impact on the lives of clients. They're helping file tax returns for the first time, opening businesses, growing those businesses. So we as wealth advisors usually don't start getting the football until we're at the red zone. And the accounting professional many times does all that work to get it to the 25-yard line, to the 10-yard line. And the financial advisor gets it, down at red zone, scores a touchdown, gets all the glory and the margin of the service. So it is the accounting professional that has that outsized impact. And this is why I'm a big believer in holistic financial planning as the foundational piece to making sure that clients have the healthy financial habits that'll help them grow their businesses and help them grow their personal finances. It's the accounting professional that is uniquely positioned to start offering these services, whether they bring this in-house, get licensed, or whether they partner with someone like Arrowroot Family Office or another RIA out there to service the investment and financial planning needs of the client.
Okay. Well, since you mentioned credentials and licensing, and that's obviously a thing near and dear to the average CPA's heart.
Yes.
Maybe talk about some of the when you look at a holistic, not necessarily a holistic financial advisors. You say you don't necessarily have to have the credentials yourself, but if you're looking for holistic financial services, what kind of licensing might you want to have represented on the team that's serving you, whether it's one person having it or
Yeah.
a mix of different advisors.
Yeah. So the unicorns out there are the CPAs who have the PFS as well, or a Series 65 license. So the Series 65 license is probably the easiest pathway. I've had CPAs that have passed it in a couple of weeks. I wouldn't say that's the norm here, Dan, but it's a lot easier than the CPA exam. You can also go through the AICPA, get the PFS credential, but that's the way to get paid via investment management services. But the great thing about financial planning is you technically don't need a license to do financial planning. Folks in the accounting profession are many times doing holistic financial planning or a lion's share of it already. They're doing the tax planning, they're setting up retirement accounts for folks out there. And so they have the data, they have the trust, and it's the relationship they just need to expand by offering some of these services. So that's why I wrote the book, gives them a methodology, outlines all the services, and gives them a pathway to start earning on those investment management services.
Yeah, and you're the main contributor, but there's also you brought in a lot of outside experts from around the profession to share their insights. I mean, it's a compendium of not just all your insights, but a lot of other people in it. It's a great resource, I think,
Yeah.
for people who are considering this.
Yeah, I was able to get all stars. I'll promote them because they're wonderful folks out there. Blake Oliver wrote a chapter. Alan Colton, Bob Lewis, Phil Whitman talked about the M&A activity. We have tax planning with Jackie Meyer, and we have the estate planning technologies from the CEOs in the wealth tech space. So it's a number of great contributors. So it's not just me talking about all these different service lines. I wanted to get an all-star list of contributors talking how we can integrate these services in a holistic and authentic way.
Which I don't mean to imply by that we wouldn't think of you as a valuable source of information, right? You know whereof you speak.
Thank you,
But
Dan.
it's just one of the great things about the book, really, is that is in addition to your expertise, you bring in all this other expertise from around the profession, particularly as you say, sort of in different niches where they have specific expertise. So, and you make the strong case as you have here today for why this is an appropriate role for accountants. It's worth reinforcing. You talked about the tax aspects, the fact that accountants are there at the beginning with clients, right? They're working with the very first tax return, the very first, set of very first monthly closing for their small business if they're starting one up. Are there other things that make this an appropriate role for accountants?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there was I know there was a McKinsey study that was done here recently that said that there's been this movement towards clients wanting holistic advice. So I think it was from 2018 to 2023, there's a 60% uptick in clients looking for holistic advice. And the two top categories here, Dan, were legal services, which are estate planning, and tax preparation. So there is this movement by clients who are looking to have a virtual family office or a holistic type of offering. They want a one-stop shop. You shouldn't be hungry and want to go to a baker over here, go to get your meat over here. We want to look to our practitioners who are providing us advice and making sure that we can go to a one-stop shop, whether you service that yourself or you bring a subject matter expert. So we're seeing this increase by clients on wanting a holistic offering. And then I'll say this. There is tremendous technology that's being introduced into the marketplace. The wealth tech side, I would say estate planning. I want to give practical tips for those in the audience. The wealth tech space, estate planning has really been an entry point, like I stated earlier, for folks out there to start serving generations. It's a great way to look at the full balance sheet, the assets and liabilities, and making sure that they're providing for the many needs of that client in case of any unforeseen circumstances. So I said that's why it's a family office level care. It's a great way to retain clients. It's a great way to attract new clients. And those are high value clients, usually with investable assets and high net worth. And that's where we're all after, right? As these professions continue to be commoditized, we got to start providing higher level services for our clients. That's tax planning, that's estate planning, that's doing the investment management piece as well.
Excellent. Well, there are, just listening to you describe it, there are a lot of reasons why it would make sense, certainly for clients to want this, right? They're probably, among other things, tired of having their accountant or their tax preparers say, what have you done what are you doing all here? This is crazy. But also there's all kinds of benefits to having all these services sort of coordinated and having someone surveying the whole universe. There's some obvious reasons why it might be valuable to accountants, but not all accountants have taken it up. And I want to dive into some of that and maybe why they might have been a little reluctant and maybe why they should be less reluctant, and what they need to do to take on this role. But we're going to take a quick break first. This episode is brought to you by CPA.com. Join forward-thinking practitioners at the Digital CPA Conference this December in Washington, D.C. Explore AI, advisory, audit, and tax strategies to position your firm for ongoing success. Register by July 31st with code PODCAST25 to save $500. And learn more at dcpa25.com. And we're back. We're talking to Rory Henry, who, among many other things, is the author of the recent Holistic Guide to Wealth Management. And we've been talking with him about why this might be a role that's appropriate for accountants to take. Not why it might be. It is. It's pretty clear that it is. It is an opportunity for accountants. But, and this is one of the things we see every time there's some kind of economic upset and drops in the market and that sort of thing, 2008, 2009, or on COVID, we see a lot of people looking at their current financial advisors and saying, hey, I'm not necessarily getting the service I want from them. And accountants, a lot of people say, oh, this is a great opportunity for accountants. But in general, the percentage of accountants who offer this hasn't really increased as much as you might expect. It's somewhere between 25 and 30%, particularly skewing towards larger firms. I wanted to get your sense. Do you have a sense of why accountants might be reluctant to take on this role?
Well, Dan, I think you probably could agree with me. It is a risk-averse profession. But that's why I believe they have the ability to make great financial advisors. We as financial advisors, I've talked about in the book, the evolution of professions. On the accounting side, we've seen the move from time-based billing to value pricing. Now modern firms doing subscription pricing. On the wealth side, it's different. We haven't had to reprice our services at all. It's the exact opposite. We've had to provide more value to justify the 1% AUM. So you've gone to the 70s and 80s getting access to capital markets for folks. That's what a stock a broker was. To in the 90s and 2000s being that portfolio manager, the advent of mutual funds and exchange traded funds, to now doing holistic financial planning and making sure that we're doing the estate planning, doing the insurance planning, bringing in the tax planning. Leading RIAs now are taking over this tax planning service line because they see the value, the immediate value you can provide to clients. So the evolution on the wealth management side has seen a movement towards providing all these additional services. And don't get me wrong, Dan, they're going to start doing just tax returns as a loss leader, right? To provide a greater value to their clients. So we're seeing this evolution of the professions, but I believe the accountant is a great financial advisor, has great financial advisor potential, because what we do as financial advisors, we're just really helping clients from making 3 to 5 catastrophic decisions. Like you just stated, in March of 2020, when COVID hits and the market drops, going to cash would be a wealth destructive behavior. Now, this isn't investment advice, right? As well as during tariffs, right? When that tariffs announcements hit and all of a sudden the market drops, we're helping clients many times stay invested. I call it, we are emotional circuit breakers. And it's not really timing the market, Dan. It's time in the market. We're not picking stocks anymore, right? The computer does a lot of that work. We're helping people save and invest, and we're accountability partners. And that's what really accountants are. They're risk averse. They're making sure that clients are staying on pace with their plan and helping them make great decisions and looking at the different options available. So I think accountants are greatly positioned to take on more of this future facing role.
I love that, emotional circuit breakers, because we talk to as part of our service, our survey every year of the top CPA firms in wealth management. Inevitably, one of the things, the most common thing they're talking about doing, as you say, it's not picking stocks, it's not this, it's not that. It's a lot of hand holding, and it's keeping people from doing stupid things when
Yes.
the market's going crazy. It's saying, no, stop. We figured this out. We have a plan for this.
Right.
As you say, time and market. The whole point of it is we've prepared for these kind of things. And the most important thing for you to do is nothing. It's just
right.
turn away.
The dead person has the best returns right there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, there's a degree to which you could say this is a perfect role for accountants to be cautious and to be careful, and to say, listen, we're risk averse, but also caring deeply about the success of their clients.
Yes. Look, we are helping people navigate life transitions. And money is very emotional too, Dan. We all experience it. It's personal, it's professional, but it's emotional. And we're helping clients through marriage, having a child for the first time, buying a home, starting a business, growing that business, selling a business. There's healthcare needs, and there's legacy considerations with estate planning. Our friend Ron Baker says we're advising clients from womb to tomb. I absolutely love it. And that's really what a virtual family office is.
Yeah, no question. And it's, I think for, you've mentioned, accountants have traditionally been a sort of backward, historically facing profession. And there's a certain amount of discomfort with, for a lot of accountants with, offering just, broadly, not just a wealth management advice, but advice in general, moving towards advisory services, because there's a certain sense, well, I'm not comfortable promising things about the future. But is that really what a holistic financial advisor is doing? Then are they making promises about the future, or are they? Yeah,
just as a business advisor making promises with the success of a business, we're just giving options for clients out there. We're looking at their risk profile and then putting them into some type of portfolio. But like I said, it's really looking at all the additional stuff we're doing as advisors. That's why I trademarked the term, Dan, advise ROAR. And the ROAR is not short for Rory. It's for return on relationship. We're not necessarily a servant to a service. We service that relationship and use our acumen and expertise. McKinsey did also another study that says by 2030, we're all going to become really integrated wealth and life coaches, helping people with their businesses, their taxes, their financial wellness, their health care. And as AI continues to advance, it's going to do all the data in a mind for opportunities. It's going to be that human on the other side working with you that understands you, that can provide personalized, timely, and impactful advice.
No, I was going to ask you about the return on relationship, because the relationship is so much at the core of what it does. good accountants are doing is building a long-term relationship with their clients, getting to know them very well, caring about their results and so on, and being there with them when they need. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it's a neat concept, right? To be thinking it's about return on investment, but the return on relationship.
And you will get that ROI if you focus on the relationship and that return on that relationship. If you cultivate those relationships, you provide great service, you understand your clients, you're connecting these services, and you're helping clients get to where they want to go in life. I'm a big believer, Dan, in the platinum rule. The golden rule is do unto others as you would want done on you. The platinum rule is do unto others as they would want done unto them. And so it's really putting yourself in their shoes and helping them to where they want to get to go in life.
Excellent. All right. Well, you convinced me. I assume you've convinced hopefully some of our listeners who maybe haven't moved down this path to becoming a holistic financial advisor. Let's talk about what are some first steps you could take? I don't have any wealth management or financial advisory role in my firm. How do I build that? How do I move towards that?
That's a good question, Dan. I always say for folks out there, go through a holistic financial plan yourself. Experience it. Get some demos with some financial planning software. There's tremendous software solutions out there in the marketplace. So go through that yourself to find out really what it entails. And then I would say do an estate plan as well on your own family. 55% of the population has no estate plan at all. 31% of people have a will. 11% of people have a trust. And so we have the ability to start having people think about the end in mind. I always say there's two great services out there: exit planning and estate planning. On the business side, exit planning, we think backwards. Estate planning, we think backwards as well, and we can map out a plan of action. So those are just some practical ways we can start. And then I would say, look at the Series 65 exam if you want to start doing investment management. You can also look at the PFS. And then I always tell CPAs out there, accounting professionals, you got to crawl before you walk, before you run. So partnering with an RA like Arrowroot Family Office or another wealth manager you currently work with is a great way for you to start having calls with wealth advisors and seeing how the process works. And Dan, the secret sauce, it's not that difficult. The CPAs who we work with go, oh, that's all you're doing? You're literally putting things into a software program and spitting out a risk score and a portfolio. Yes, that's the easy part. The more difficult part is really the human first approach and making sure that we can do the personal scales and really understand our clients. But accountants already do that. If they have a great business that is tech enabled, they're already doing all that work. They understand the family dynamics. They understand the intricacies of a business. And many times we are like therapists, Dan, out there. I think those in our audience can agree. People share intimate knowledge about their business and personal finances with us. We sit in a privileged position. And so I think we need to be able to offer our clients this integrated approach to make sure they have great business advice as well as great personal financial planning advice.
Right. Well, it's an excellent point. A lot of people, when people talk about, why accountants should look at wealth management, they often say, well, you already know the details of their financial position, their tax return and so on. But as you point out, you also probably know a lot about their family and their business and their hopes and dreams and all that sort of squishy stuff. That's so important to the holistic advice, right? As you say, a lot of, portfolio selection. I don't want to say it's automated. It's not, but it's a lot easier than you might think. What's hard is understanding people, understanding what they want, knowing where they're headed, knowing that who in their family you can talk to about something and who you can't, that sort of thing. You already, as an accountant, know a lot of that as well. So
yeah, I totally agree, Dan. It's like sitting around a campfire talking to a good friend on what they want out of life, and then you can use your acumen, your knowledge of the tax code, and planning to be able to help them get there.
Sitting around the campfire and charging them for your time.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, this is, as I say, I think you've convinced me. I'm going to go become an accountant and then become a holistic financial advisor. But I suspect you've convinced a lot of other people. I would recommend that they go take a look at the book, Holistic Guide to Wealth Management. It's great stuff. Rory Henry of Arrowroot Family Office. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
And thank you all for listening. This episode of On the Air is produced by Accounting Today with audio production by Anna Mintz. Rate or review us on your favorite podcast platform and see the rest of our content on accountingtoday.com. Thanks again to our guest, and thank you for listening.